Listen up. If you're a man who's succeeding almost everywhere, work is good, you make good money, your kids are taken care of, but at home you and your wife are beginning to feel more like roommates than partners, then you're going to want to pay attention for the next 15 minutes because I'm going to show you exactly what's happening and how you can get that connection, intimacy, and trust you want back into your marriage. Now, importantly, you're not failing your marriage because something is wrong with you. You're struggling because you're running a system that was never designed for marriage. Now, I'm going to show you this playbook that we never got, the one nobody handed our generation of men, and how men are now using it to stop feeling like roommates and start feeling like they're dating their wives again. So stay with me, because once you see this, there is no going back. So let me guess what life looks like right now, because it looked like this for me too. Conversations with your wife are mostly logistics. Their kids' schedules, groceries, what's broken in the house, what next renovation is going to happen. It's probably impossible for you to remember the last real conversation you had with your wife, one that wasn't simply about managing your life together. And when she's upset, you do everything you can to help. You offer a solution, you fix the thing. Yet somehow this seems to make things worse. She says things like, "You're not listening." Meanwhile, you're there thinking, "I'm literally trying to solve the problem you just approached me with." And she begins to pull away. You don't know what to do. So you either try harder or you retreat into work, the garage, your phone, whatever vice you have that works. And when it comes to actually being intimate, you begin to hear those dreaded, "I'm tired," or "not tonight." You don't push back, of course, because that feels wrong. You don't say anything. You just quietly begin to do the math in your head. When was the last time? Was it weeks ago? Was it months ago? You begin to fret and worry, like I did, about where that trend might be headed. What happens if this continues? You begin to feel those things slipping away. Your intimacy, the trust, the spark that the two of you used to have. You feel guilty at work because you're not at home. And when you're at home, you feel guilty because you aren't at work earning more money. You're caught in this endless loop. And what hurts the most is that you still love her. This isn't a marriage without love, it's a marriage missing a playbook. And I'll explain what I mean really soon. If you're nodding along right now, then great, because I need you to hear this next part. It's very important, okay? None of this means you're broken, all right? It means you were never taught something very important. Ready? Now, here's what we were taught. Now, here's what you were taught. We all got handed the same lessons growing up, right? Work hard, provide, solve problems, push through, be strong. All these types of very male, very manly things. Sound about right? Now, those skills are great, okay? They're why you're good at your job. They're why people count on you. They're why if something breaks, you know how to fix it. Those skills are really, really useful. But what every one of those skills has in common is they taught you how to be a provider, how to earn, how to protect, how to solve things. None of them taught you, though, how to be a supporter. So, what do? We bring the same things at work home with us. If our wife is upset, we solve the problem. If there's something broken, we fix it. Okay? And if things are hard, we push through, we say nothing, and we be strong. Every single one of those things, right? All those things that help you at work, they're actually making your marriage worse. And it's not because you're doing them inherently wrong. It's because she isn't asking to be provided for. She's asking to be supported. So you're answering the right question. You're just using the wrong currency. See, nobody taught us how to emotionally support our wives without simply trying to fix the problem. Nobody taught us how to stay connected during the hard seasons. Nobody taught us how to process what we're feeling. Most of us learned that men have exactly two emotions: I'm fine and I'm angry. Nobody taught us how to lead our families emotionally, because for generations, men weren't asked to. Our dads didn't teach us because nobody taught them. And unfortunately, you cannot willpower your way through an education that you never received. I don't care what the hustle bros tell you. So let me show you why you cannot willpower your way through this. Okay, now for years, I believed the job in my marriage was simple: fix every problem. That's what a good husband does, right? Something's wrong, you fix it. Now, I can still picture conversations on the couch that we had. Her sitting down and telling me that something was wrong and she was struggling with something. Me, doing what I always did, offering a solution. I could tell that that wasn't what she wanted to hear. And I don't remember her exact words, of course, but I do remember the feeling. Every helpful solution I gave made her pull a little farther away. I just didn't know why. I was doing exactly what I thought a good husband was supposed to do. I was solving the problems. It got a lot worse when my wife went through a season of depression, and I just continued to do exactly what I'd been taught. I just went into fix it mode. I researched, I looked for answers, I tried to solve what she was going through like it was a project with a deadline, which when I say it out loud sounds ridiculous. And every attempt I tried to fix it simply pushed her farther away. It made it worse. And the harder I tried, the worse things got. I would just try to solve them faster and keep using those skills. Now that began to create a lot of pressure, as you can probably imagine. So what I did is I did what we were all taught to do, is we just shove it down, bottle it up, right? I got quiet. I stopped really saying anything to my wife because if I did, it just felt like the wrong thing. And that pressure began to boil over into family life. I would snap at my son over things that, looking back now, are just completely trivial. I kept trying to just bottle it up, and that bottle simply kept exploding. Now, the really scary thing is we never had a blow up. Nobody was ever threatening to leave. Nothing was on fire. And the reason that's scary is because nothing was ever bad enough to force me to change. I could keep telling myself it was just a hard season. It would pass. Okay, I didn't know then that that's actually how marriages come apart. Now it's a big fight. It was a bunch of nights of, don't worry about it, or we'll figure it out later. Till one day you look up and realize that you're roommates who used to be in love. Now, I spent years studying positive psychology, stress management, self-development, reading all the books. I was even coaching people on this stuff. But then when I needed it, none of it worked in the moments. And this sounds ridiculous, but I found myself at 2 a.m. walking around my town, talking with ChatGPT. It got that bad. And it wasn't because I didn't care. I'd never cared about anything more in my entire life. I was failing because caring and trying harder was all I knew to do, and it wasn't working. Now, thankfully, the turning point came from a very unexpected place. My wife had been training in hypnotherapy and how our subconscious minds actually work, where our beliefs get formed, how patterns get installed into our brains long before we're aware of them, and she had encouraged me to take a course. Now, when the time finally came to go to the course, the timing was awful. I mean, terrible. Life felt like it was literally falling apart. Her depression was worse than it had ever been. I was back painting houses to help cover our bills. I hadn't coached in months. I really didn't want to fly across the country for a week-long course on some dumb thing that I wasn't even sure if it was going to help me or not. But I'd already booked everything. I'd paid for the plane ticket, the Airbnb, the course. So I reluctantly went. And I'll never forget what my mentor said on the very first day of class. He stood at the front of the room and he said, "Some of you may not have wanted to come. You may have felt like the timing was wrong. Like maybe you should push it off and do it later. But there is a reason you showed up here today." And now I know that sounds cliche. But that week changed my life. But it wasn't really until I was driving home from the airport that the whole thing really hit me with so much clarity that I had to pull over on the side of the road just to let it sit in. And it was this. It was that men need this. Because there's a whole generation of men who have this incredible opportunity to be more present than ever before, to be the support their partner and family needs. But we were never given the playbook on how to be supportive. So you see, society no longer needed us to be the breadwinners, which is incredible, and it's a needed change that had to happen. But for generations, the majority of males worked, or they went off to war, or they were only around for a little bit. They were told that there were only two emotions, right? Happy and angry. That men don't cry, to toughen up. Generations of conditioning that was now working against us. Okay, it's no wonder that male suicide rates are skyrocketing, especially because when one of the most popular methods of dealing with this type of issue, these deep-rooted problems, is talk therapy. And it's designed against many of the ways that the male brain actually works. What do we get fed? We get fed hustle culture. We get fed man up and do what needs getting done. Which is why, since that first course, I've now invested over $10,000 into advanced NLP and hypnosis training. Because more importantly, I've completely changed how I show up, and I know that other men can. And I've been helping other men do exactly this. Men who feel overwhelmed, reactive, stuck. Not by giving them some surface level tools and a spreadsheet to try harder with. Because those tools rely on willpower, and willpower is finite, and there's a reason it doesn't work. But before we get into everything, I need you to understand what's actually happening in your brain in tough moments at home. Alrighty? Now, I'm going to show you something that probably nobody has ever told you, okay? Once you see this, I promise you can't unsee it. If you made it this far in the video, the next thing right here will begin to change things for you, I promise. Okay, most men think the problem is the trigger that happens, okay? Something externally happens, whether she's upset, she goes quiet, or an argument comes around again. So they try to manage that trigger, okay? Or just white knuckle their reaction to it. The problem is that triggers never stop happening. We have no control over them, okay? And they keep changing. So here's what's actually happening. Now I'm gonna actually draw this out, okay? So what we have is we have an outcome on this side, okay? This here is our outcome, all right? This is something that you were currently doing. I mean, that happens, okay? There's a trigger on this side. This is the trigger. This is something external that happens. All righty? Now, we think that this is all there is. We think that there's a trigger and then something happens, right? An external thing happens and then I do something. But there's actually two things here in the middle that are happening that we don't even realize, okay? Our brain is happening so fast, or working so fast, these things just happen. So what happens is the trigger creates an internal thought in our brains, an internal thought, all right? That internal thought creates a feeling, and that feeling creates the final outcome, okay? So these feelings are actually what's driving our behaviors. Now this whole thing happens in seconds, okay? So by the time you're mid-solution or you're reacting badly, you're halfway out the door, you've already done these things, okay? This strategy is a subconscious thing that your brain is doing. It decides how you act before you even get a chance to determine what it is you want to do. Okay. Now, what surface level stuff is trying to do is to make you change the outcome that's happening, okay, based on the trigger, by just willpowering your way through the internal thought and the feeling that's occurring. Okay. So this stuff's already happened, and now you're like, okay, I want to be doing this, but I'm going to choose to do something else. And that's quite honestly exhausting. Okay. And it's why it doesn't work. Now, here's why this is so important, okay? Because most men identify with this behavior at the end of the chain, all right? You hear guys say things like, I'm just somebody who yells, or I'm impatient, or I'm somebody who gets angry, all right? But you're not being angry, you're doing anger. There's a pattern happening, all right? And then you end up doing something. Now, when you shift from I am to I'm doing, well, now you can choose to do something else, right? If you're just doing anger, you can choose to do a different thing, right? We can choose and decide to have different internal thoughts and different feelings, and thus have different outcomes. So I want you to follow along with me here. We're going to actually walk through this right here in this video, okay? And what do you think about what outcome that you dislike, okay? What is the thing that you're doing that you don't like that you do? You've probably come up with this fairly quickly. Maybe you disagree with your wife, or maybe you don't like it when you storm out of the house, or you don't like it when you shut down. Okay, or maybe you're like me and you would go into fix-it mode. All right. Now I want you to think about what were you feeling right before you did that thing. Right. When you go back into that moment and right before you did the thing, whatever it was, what were you feeling? If you were to know, right, what were you feeling right before you did that outcome? Maybe you were feeling anxious, angry, possibly frightened. There is no wrong answer on what you were feeling. All right. Now, when your wife does the trigger, okay, and before you feel this way, what thought pops in your head? If you were to know what thought shows up in your head that makes you feel this way, that makes you do this thing. Okay, whatever comes up, again, first thought that pops in your brain, don't overthink this. Whatever internal thought shows up that makes you feel this way, that makes you do this thing. Okay, maybe it's, how do I solve this? Maybe it's, how am I going to handle this? Or I can't handle this. Or maybe it's, why can't my wife insert whatever thing it is that she's doing? That internal thought happens, you feel the way, and you do a certain thing. Okay. Now, here's the cool thing about this is that we can change how this works. So what outcome would you rather have? Okay. Got it? What would you rather do instead? Cool. Now, what feeling does that outcome provoke? Maybe the outcome you'd rather have is, oh, I want to be able to focus on what she's saying and I want to listen to her. Okay. Well, what feeling? How do I feel when I feel that way? Well, I feel compassionate. Okay, cool. When I feel compassionate, well, then I begin to really listen and focus. Okay. I'm not trying to solve, I'm just listening. Now, what would you say to yourself to feel compassionate? Okay. What do I have to say internally to make myself feel compassionate? Maybe it's she really needs my support right now. That's going to make me feel compassionate. Or she's struggling with something. That internal thought is going to make me feel a certain way, and then I'm going to do a different outcome. Okay? And this is the cool thing about this. Okay, now we have control over what we're doing. All right? This is how structural change in your brain actually works. It's how your brain processes each individual moment. Okay? And that's why that change, like I said, cannot just be a willpower thing. All right, so let's talk about willpower, okay? And this is why trying harder has failed you every single time. That whole chain that we went through, all right, runs below the level of conscious thinking. So I want you to think of it as a monkey and an elephant, okay? The monkey is your conscious mind. It's very logical, very rational, and it's convinced it's in charge. The elephant is your subconscious. It's everything running in the background. Now, if the elephant wants to go left, it goes left. The monkey is just there for the ride. The monkey thinks it knows where it's going, but the elephant is ultimately the one that's doing what it wants to do. Okay, so maybe the monkey makes a decision. Okay, when she brings something up, I'm not going to fix it. I'm just going to listen. Great, good plan, monkey. But the moment that actually comes down, that elephant has already taken off down the same trail it's been walking for 20, 30, 40 years. It's down the fix it, defend, shut down trail before the monkey even had the chance to vote on which way it wants to go. That's why that nothing you have tried has worked when it actually matters, because you're trying to redirect a moving elephant. The real work is laying a new path for that elephant to follow. Because the elephant will walk the trail it walks because of things that have happened. That's what those trails exist. So moments in your past where something occurred. Now we call these significant emotional events. A point in time when a belief got formed. And from that day forward, the elephant has walked down that path. So what we do is we change what the elephant believes. Okay, think of it like this. Your behaviors sit inside a web. All right, I'm going to draw this one out for us too. This is going to be useful to see. Okay, think of it like this. All right, so our values, our beliefs, and our behaviors all live within a web in how we operate. So we have up at the top, we have our values. Okay, these are things that you deem as important. All right, family, wealth, impact. Right, your values dictate what you believe. You have beliefs based on the values. Makes sense? Your beliefs are what drive your behaviors. Alrighty? You believe something about yourself, and that belief causes you to act in a certain way. Okay? Now, what most coaching tries to do is change these beliefs, right? Now, you can change enough beliefs, you can change enough behaviors, all right, and a belief will change. So if I believe, for example, here's a basic example. If I believe that I'm a smoker, right, one of my behaviors will be smoking. Now, I can stop smoking, and eventually I'll believe that I'm not a smoker anymore. But it's much faster to change a belief and have it change a bunch of behaviors downstream. Significantly easier way to do this, okay? If you no longer believe that you are somebody who only can fix things. So I have a belief that is, I'm a fixer. Maybe I have a belief that men aren't good at listening or men aren't good at emotions. Well, if I instead change that belief to be like, I know how to listen well and I can be there to support and I feel in tune with my emotions, well, then you will be, because you believe that you are and your behaviors will represent the beliefs that you carry. Now, I want to be clear on something here. Okay? A lot of the work that we do is changing the way that we perceive our emotions. And this isn't about removing emotions because every emotion has a purpose. Anger means that we care about something. Okay, a boundary's been crossed. Fear stops us from walking out in traffic. I am not trying to turn you into a robot. Okay? What we want to do, though, is begin to remove what we call our unwarranted and unwanted levels of emotion. Again, I'm just going to explain this here. Got a little bit of room left on the whiteboard. All right. So you can imagine your emotions like this, like a big wave. Okay? You have very high highs, very low lows. Our goal is to just give this wave a little bit less intensity to it. Again, I don't want it to be a flat line. Okay, because we need some emotions, but we don't want these unwanted and unwarranted levels of them. Okay, this way you can still appreciate those emotions. You can still be present with them without them overwhelming you or taking over what you're doing. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Freeman, sounds a lot like talk therapy. Here's the big difference, okay? A lot of what I do is content free. You don't have to tell me what happened, okay? You know what happened. I'm just going to walk you through some of it. And unlike talk therapy, very important, okay? This doesn't take months or years of reprocessing the same events, going over things. This can work in weeks or even days because we're not processing an event endlessly. We're just simply changing what you believe that event to mean, what you learned from it, okay? We're giving that elephant a new belief and a new path to walk on. So I built all this into what I call the playbook we never got. Now, here are 4 steps. Here's how they work. Step 1, discover the strategy your subconscious is running. Okay, this is what we just did. Before you can change anything, you have to see what's actually happening, right? When you actually map out what it's doing, it's incredibly eye-opening. Once you realize there's a pattern to it, you can then change that pattern. It's not just random happenings, all right? Step 2 is to change the limiting belief driving that unwanted behavior. Okay, remember that coaching often attacks the behaviors, hoping that by changing all those behaviors, we can change the beliefs that are behind them. But together, we can begin to change a belief and then watch as the dominoes fall behind it. Those behaviors just begin to disappear. Step 3, we remove your unwarranted and unwanted levels of emotion. This is the step that I think, in my opinion, hit me the hardest, made the biggest difference for me and for most of the men I work with, okay? Because I think, again, for generations, we were taught that we should just bottle our emotions up, don't feel them, squash them. Now, I'm here to tell you that that just doesn't work, okay? It's just a Band-Aid solution to a problem that does not go away, all right? It's important to remember that the elephant walks a certain path because of a significant emotional event from your past. Something happened and then a belief was formed. The elephant learned that particular route. So what we can do is we actually go back and then we help the elephant choose a different path. But not just for one emotion or one strategy, but for a bunch of them. We clear those strategies and beliefs around tons of moments, tons of events in your life that you might not even be aware of, okay? Now, I'm not saying we forget that those things happen. I'm not just going to wipe the slate clean, okay? I'm not even saying that we're going to move past those things. I'm saying we're going to look at them as a different person, as who you are now, and we're going to choose what we believe those events to mean to you, what lessons you're going to get to them. Because when you change what you believe about a moment, the behaviors downstream will change automatically. When I work through my own unresolved emotional change or charge story around anger, I'm not exaggerating this, I had change overnight. It wasn't just like, oh, I feel different. It was like the next day I was like, oh, wow, I'm a totally different person. And then step 4, we're going to lock in that new version of yourself. All of that work doesn't stick if we don't cement it in. You've probably heard the saying, right? We are what we think. This is doubly important for what your subconscious is thinking. If your subconscious is actually seeing and feeling what your relationship with your wife will look like 6, 8, a year from now, okay? What your wife says to you, how she looks at you, that desire is back. When you plant those types of visions into your subconscious and you lock them in, it begins to change the way that you think about your future. Not just at a conscious level, but at a subconscious level. And thus, the things that you will look for and be will change. Now, this isn't complicated. There's no massive stack of tools to memorize. I'm not adding more to your plate because I know if you're like me, you've already got a lot going on. Okay? It's about working with your brain, how things work, instead of forcing you to try to change your behaviors. All right? Now, Another thing that people always say, and I want to make sure of this, I'm not turning you into a soft, agreeable version of yourself. Okay. I'm not trying to make you talk about your feelings for sport or, okay. I'm trying everything here is to make you a stronger leader for your family, not a weaker one. Okay. Because strengths was never the problem. You just had it aimed at the wrong target. All right, now we're going to take a quick look at some of the amazing people I've had the opportunity to work with over the last few years. And I'm going to pull this up on the screen here, and we're just going to have a quick look through them. I'm not going to bore you with this, I promise. All right, so if you want, you can go check this out on my website. But really quickly, Larry and Matthew are two gentlemen I had the privilege of just doing a quick lunch and learn with. And they even said, even through that little lunch and learn, which was only an hour-long presentation, that even some of that stuff helped them really control their emotions in the actual moment when they needed it. Chasen was another great individual I got to work with. He describes the mindset shift as huge and was very surprised at how well everything worked and how well these systems actually worked. Like I said, there's a lot more of these. You can go have a look at them on my website at freemanbeals.com/start here. Feel free, go check them out for yourselves. Now, the big thing I want you to remember that these aren't retreat weekend breakthroughs that fade away by Tuesday, okay? These are regular people who finally had someone work with them on the right thing that changed it for them. So if you watched this and thought, that's exactly how I feel, or that's exactly what's going on with me, here's the next step, okay? I want you to book a call with me. The link is below the video. It's only 30 minutes. There's no pressure. In that call, we will map out exactly where your marriage is, which programs you're running, okay, and exactly what you need to change first. So whether we work together or not, I promise you will leave that call with the actual steps you have to take, okay? Things that aren't just communicate better, but the actual things that are going to help. My goal for you is only one big real win. One moment where your wife turns towards you instead of away from you. One conversation that ends with her feeling closer to you instead of farther away. Because when that happens, when you actually see this working, okay, you stop the drifting, you stop bracing for that drift, okay, and you start trusting yourself again. This is when things really get real. The link is below. Book the call. Now, before you go, if you only remember one thing from this whole video, please make it this. Most men don't lose their marriage in a blow up. They lose it in that slow drift while doing more of what they think is the right thing, more providing, more fixing, more pushing through, hoping that things will just get better. But they won't. They can't. They were never designed to in this sense. Nobody gave us the playbook of how to make things better. The link is below. I'll see you there.